To explain before I actually open the bond hearing, that we have two bond hearings tonight. One is on the Public Works garage facility for $1,300,000, and we have another bond on the River District redevelopment project for $500,000. We have to keep these open for 30 minutes apiece. I will move to the second budget hearing if after 15 or 20 minutes no one else has questions on the garage bond article. I'll then move to the second one, but leave the first one open in case someone comes in and has questions. So we should end the two bond hearings at 7 o'clock, and then we'll get into the budget. So I'll call this meeting to order, and it's a budget hearing, and just let me read this. The 2015 the bond hearing, Littleton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing pursuant to RSA 33 and RSA 40 on the budget and proposed bonds or long-term indebtedness as follows. Department of Public Works garage facility, $1,300,000. River District Commission redevelopment project, $500,000. So we're opening the first bond hearing on the garage facility. And Brody Toot, are you here? Would you like to speak to that issue? Thank you.
To note?
Yeah.
Do you want to note that I'm here?
Oh, I'm sorry, Brody. Before you begin, this is a meeting of the Selectmen. Selectman Seymour is in New Mexico on family business. She is not here tonight for that reason, but she is connected to us by telephone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Again, my name is Brody Toot, and tonight I'm here to give a brief overview. The back of the switchboard. This side. The time's ticking by already. No?
I don't know either. We'll just switch right to
That one's mine.
That's yours. Okay.
Pardon me.
Margie, we're having a little bit of a communications problem with one of the microphones.
Okay.
Janitor did have it.
Sad part is, he was probably going to figure it out. Here we go. Can hold it down.
Thank you. Okay. We'll try that again. Again, my name's Brody Toot. I'm here to present just a brief overview of the highway garage. There hasn't been many changes since last year. But I have Frank here advance the slide. And one more, Frank, please. So it's been about 2 years ago we were formed from the Selectmen. We were put together to study the garage. The garage first came as we're losing a lot of heat due to there's no insulation in the roof. There was a study done by Provan all over to see if we could insulate the current facility. They determined that the building was never designed to take a snow load. We could not insulate the facility, so the Selectmen decided to form a committee to overview the structure and develop a recommendation. Up front, here's just a few names. You have volunteers and town employees that have helped. Here's an image of what the building looked like right after it was constructed in the late 50s, early 60s. The building was built in 1958. And then below it is a current picture. And what we really want to take away from this is, first, the building had a useful life of 50 years. It is now north of that, about 56, 57 years. The largest thing we want to take away from this is the truck size. Vehicles have grown dramatically since this building was originally designed. Obviously, as a visual range, those are just some of the trucks that the town owns. It's none of the equipment. Above it, there's a lot of other equipment. So just things to consider is the complex size of it. So, the committee was formed. We took a look at all the different entities of what we could do, replace the building, rebuild the building. But after looking at some engineering reports, we found that removing the building and replacing it completely is the best option for the town. It's going to address the high heating costs, the life safety issues, obviously the size that needs to be expanded. Furthermore, I took a few snapshots out of a few letters that were presented to the town. First one was from Provanalover. The biggest factor is the snow load. The building isn't designed to hold a heavy snow load, as the heat from the building is designed to shed the snow off the building. Currently, the building is rated at a 15 per square foot load, and the current code is 58. So obviously, it's insufficient there. Furthermore, the framing members are not easily supported or changed out, and it's completely inadequate to heat the building as it stands. Furthermore, just to dive in this a little bit more, their recommendation is the building is not adequate for the need, but also if we were to decide to rehabilitate the building, their opinion was it would cost a tremendous amount and we may not get a good payoff. We went one step further, and I'll have Fred advance one more, and we asked the contractor that we selected to give us a price to rehab the existing structure. They stated that it would be in the neighborhood of $1 million to rehab the building. On top of that, there's architectural fees and engineering that needed to go into it, another $150,000 to $200,000 range. So $1.2 million was the figure to rehab the current building. It didn't address a lot of the items that, as in sprinkler systems and a lot of the need that the town wanted to bring it up, fire-rated storage of equipment. So we decided we should probably recommend replacing it altogether. Expanding the safety of the people working in there, there's currently only 4 garage doors and there's 6 bays of equipment. Vehicles have to maneuver in a very interesting way to get into their designated spots at the end of the night. And there is some equipment that needs to be parked outdoors throughout the winter because it does not have an area to park inside. As the images that you can see, it's a very tight working space. Some things we've decided to add in from safety, drive-through bays. Each vehicle have its own bay. We'll be able to have a garage door on either end of the building, simply pass through, eliminating a lot of backing. So we targeted a bunch of things. Safety and energy are obviously two of the hottest topics. There is an energy code that is a basis that we are following. With no insulation in the roof currently, we feel that R value is 0 on the building. It's not holding any of the heat in. The new building is going to have a much greater R value of 32 in the walls, and 24 in the, 32 in the roof, 24 in the walls. An interesting added idea, we're going to have 6 bays in the new building, and the building is perfectly facing a southern exposure. We decided to install as a proposition solar passive doors. These doors will supplement the heat from the sun during the day and not only light but also heat the building to not use as much fuel. We are going to use the biomass pellet heat and the backup propane system will be installed. On this side, I mentioned safety, expanded footprint and drive-through bays. It's going to be it's going to have a fire sprinkler system as well as a central alarm, have some fire-rated storage for all the chemicals, and a carbon monoxide handling unit. Here's just some images over here. There's some more expanded images. We wanted to build a building on the same campus that the town already owns. It's going to sit somewhere where the current facility is, in conjunction with all the existing buildings. The site we felt works well for the town, and we're going to continue to use it. As you can see in the upper left, it clearly shows the vehicles inside, and we can certainly answer more detailed questions as they arise. Moving forward, last year we asked the town for $1.2 million. This year the cost has gone up slightly. It has increased $100,000. The majority of that money is coming from the contractor due to the cost of steel, concrete, and a number of other things. They have raised their costs. And another large factor is we've decided to install radiant heat floor. We feel after some studies, the recommendation from the Wood Council and some other entities that it will help heat the building most effectively. It's going to have one large slab, one large mass that will be heated consistently throughout the year. On the spreadsheet, I'm going to let. Okay, we're going to speak to that in a few moments on kind of the tax impact going down the line. So obviously, I threw a lot of information at everyone in a short amount of time. In the big scheme of things, we haven't really changed the project since last year. We've added a few things, and I'm certainly open to answer any questions or take any comments at this time.
Rudy, perhaps what I can do is just, this is a spreadsheet, and I know it's pretty busy and difficult for a lot of you to see. But what we're doing is paying off debt. Up here, we have the landfill closure paid off this last year, and the ladder truck. We did add 2014 highway truck and Pleasant Street sidewalk for 3 years. But the overall debt between 2014 and 2015 drops from 1.3 million just down to a little over $1 million. So that shows that the tax impact goes from $1.78 per thousand down to $1.30 per thousand, $1.39 per thousand. By adding in the highway garage, the first year payment, which won't be due until 2016, is about $106,500, and that will then increase that to $1.52 per thousand. So where last year we were at $1.78, this year by paying off the landfill closure and ladder truck, we go to $1.39 per thousand, and then next year adding in the DPW bond if passed, it'll go up to $1.52 per thousand. And from there, it tracks down, and then we have another significant decrease in 2018 after we've paid off the Opera House, Main Street, and Reddington Bridge. So by and large, that's about 14 cents per thousand for the 15-year debt that we've proposed. That would be at 2.83% interest rate over that 15-year period. Karen, what did I miss?
You did a great job.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Dan?
If the first payment will not be till 2016, will the money that is not being taken out this year, that you talk up there, will that be returned to the taxpayer, the homeowners, and the business owners who pay taxes?
Well, the money
Yes, it would not be appropriated.
would not be
So
appropriate.
it would not be raised in taxation.
Other questions? Does anyone else, I'm sorry, Dan, go
I
ahead.
want to make some comments when everybody's through with their questions.
Are there other questions here regarding the highway garage bond? Hearing none, Dan, why don't you...
May I approach these?
Sure.
If the present garage could have been insulated, which is what we in the Energy Committee, that was our focus, was to insulate it. If for any reason that could have been insulated, what we would have tomorrow is the same garage as we've got right now, but it would be insulated. Unfortunately, it couldn't be insulated. I have no qualms with any committee asking the taxpayer to put up anything. If you asked for double the footprint and twice the money, I have no problem with that because you're going to be asking the taxpayer for that. I wouldn't vote for it, but My problem is that what the taxpayer, which is the homeowners and the business owners, have not been given the option of is a direct replacement for the garage that is there right now. Now, whether they would have chosen it or not, that's not the point. They should have been given the option. There should have been another warrant article in here to directly replace what is there now, the footprint and everything. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Dan. Any other comments or questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Mr. Ward.
Bill, I would urge the selectmen and the town manager to put in what the impact would be in 2016 and 2017. Last year, I had, I don't know, probably other people had the same thing. People said, what do you mean it doesn't cost us anything? So I think if you put in, very similar to like a multi-year teacher's contract or something along that line, I think if you add that information, then that will clarify what's being, because it's hard for people to understand, what do you mean we're voting on it this year, but we don't pay anything until next year, and how a bond works, basically, because your first year is interest, then your principal, something along that line. I think that would be helpful to the voters to explain the progression of how the bill comes due.
Thank you. Karen.
I just want to make sure it's clear, Brian, you're talking about the warrant article and what the people vote on.
That's correct.
Because that information is on the spreadsheet, but it's not part of the warrant
That's
article.
absolutely correct. Because every citizen usually gets a copy of your warrant. It's mailed out.
Right.
And that's what many of them take in, do their preliminary work, take it in with them to vote. And so if you have that information, I think it'll give them a more informed decision.
Thank you, Brian.
And Karen, similar to what we do with the CBA agreements, we do project what an estimated impact might be in future years.
Okay, good. Rudy.
I just want to correct what Mr. Bryan said. I don't think so in the cities in the Littleton they're going to have the draft mail in their house. No way. I mean, you know, I personally live over here for 10 years. Every meeting that we have, I mean, you know, every election that we have, I never receive any draft in my home. You say now, you know, that everybody knows about what's going on over here? I don't think so. Unless they go to the town and they request it.
I know there's an organization that mails out the ballot. I can't vouch whether they mailed you one or not, but there is an organization that has, for 20 years, mailed out the warrant to what I thought was most of the voters. If you didn't receive it, that's...
Did the selectmen know about that?
I've always got one.
You mail it?
Yeah.
Oh, you always got it? Also another thing, you know, about the garage, right? You know, it's, eventually I tell you because, you know, eventually you're going to read in the paper and stuff like that. Well, my suggestion was that you guys, you know, the committee from the garage, first of all, you know, you got invited the citizenship, you know, all the citizens of Littleton to come and look at the garage to see if the garage needed to be built, if you guys really needed to, you know, to build a new garage. And not to use, you know, a scare tactic and say that the garage is going to fall and stuff like that. I mean, they got to come up with their own ideas if they want to, you know, vote yes for the $1.3 million with the no scare tactics, because, you know, scare tactic doesn't going to work.
Thank you for that. Actually, we had an invitation to everyone last year, and only one resident arrived to take a look at the garage, and so we did present it.
Are there any other questions or comments here? Sorry. Mr. Bruce?
How old is the carbon monoxide system that's in the old garage?
George might be able to address that.
6 months.
6 months old?
Yes, it was installed this summer after the bond failed last year for the safety of the workers.
So why wouldn't you be using that system in the new building?
We will be using the detector. It's a system that's set up with relays that turns on a switch to the exhaust fan.
I believe that it was the one that I was thinking of was when one was installed a number of years ago when Larry Jackson got sick, I think it was, or something like that. And that was part of the installation, not just a box, George. I'm not talking about that. There's a blower and a fan and stuff
Yes.
like this on.
Yes, what we did, Bruce, is we hired an electrician to come in and they hooked up a carbon monoxide detector, so when it detected a hazardous level and automatically turn that fan on. You'd have to rely on a person to go over and turn the switch on. That was installed this summer.
Why can't you use that in the new building?
But we plan to use as much as we possibly can existing in the new building.
Well, that's not what I heard.
Well, I didn't realize.
I know, I'm asking the question because that's not what I heard from you. I heard you said carbon monoxide system, putting it all in, and it appeared like you were making a presentation that everything was going to be brand new.
Certainly, I appreciate that. We are, as much as physically possible, we're going to use existing. Carbon monoxide, if it's salvageable and it meets the code, we will use. The 2-post lift that's in there, we're going to use. There's a number of things that we're going to.
So what else are you going to use?
I don't have a list immediately of all the items that we're going to be moving over. The big scheme of things is we're going to be replacing the 4 walls and a roof and all the utilities. From there, any of the existing tools and equipment are going to be moved out of the old garage and moved in the new garage.
I just heard you say 4 walls and roof, but you're not replacing the floor?
We are replacing the building, so what I meant by saying that is anything that goes into the building, we're going to replace.
I guess my only argument out of the thing on it is the fact that I felt that today's society on what you do with trucks and stuff like that, especially if you're going to have a heated floor, you're going to rot those trucks out and you're going to rot your equipment out, no different than it used to happen to us down at the sewer plant, I would think, but that was from a different thing on it. It was the actual chemicals that were rot a truck out in a 1-year period of time. But by putting those floors in there on it and heating them on it, you're going to find that you're going to just you're going to spend more money on equipment because you'll rot them out of the thing on it than ones that are carrying sand and salt. That's number one. The other part of it is I still believe the technology is wrong on the basis of what you have to put all this equipment inside of a building on it. One, you could take and utilize the other facility, which was brought up last year, by leaving the other building on it and having it for open storage on the thing on it, build a smaller scale building on it, and park some of your equipment outside under cold storage out of the thing on it, which has not been brought to our attention, not giving the people the option out of it, and we've not heard anything on it on the basis of a study. We only hear on what you think is the option of what you want in the best. And I think that that's part of why I think it didn't pass last year, was because of the fact that you didn't, it didn't pass last year on that basis. I think you got the same identical thing. You met, you're coming back and you added more to it rather than trying to give the people the option of saying what you do, what you put into a garage, whether you park vehicles outside. It's a decision that should have an option to the people pertaining to what it is, not necessarily what your committee does out of it. Your committee in turn is to provide the information on the thing on it. Yes, you can say what you feel you'd like to do, but I honestly don't think you're giving the people of the community the right option, and I think that putting this floors in here on a heated floor basis out of it, you're going to be replacing trucks and equipment more than you're going to be doing anything. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions here? Brody, why don't you share with the people here, and I think Bruce's question regarding coming up with a list of items that would be moved from one to the other would be good for the day you have that information meeting, and that's going to be on...
This is considered that. We're also going to be presenting again here in a couple weeks at the next hearing.
Right.
But I can work with George with putting a list together of all the items we're going to be moving over. I don't know, did you have another point?
Weren't you going to have something at the transfer station?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A couple days, the Saturday before voting, we're going to have a table set up and answer questions at the transfer station for any citizens coming through.
Good, thank you. Dan?
Also, with Bruce's suggestion that you use the existing building, that would save money because part of the 1.3 includes the tear down of the old building.
Right.
If that were not torn down, that money would not be spent that way.
Yeah, I think the point was that the equipment, one of Bruce's comments was what the equipment that's in there now that could be transferred and used is what they'll develop a list around as well.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying that along with Bruce's suggestion that you use the existing building If you do, you don't have to pay for the demolition of it. That would say, then that demolition is coming out of the 1.3, so the 1.3 would be reduced.
Right. Okay, good, thank you. George?
One of the things I'd like to bring to everybody's attention, for people on Channel 2 and for other people in the room that aren't aware of it, Mr. Moody, could you flip back onto some of the slides? I'd like to see the letter from Provan and Lober. One of the main reasons the building has been projected for demolition if passed is because it's not a safe building. This is a structural engineering company, and forgive me, my vision isn't good enough to read it word for word, but if someone could read that, Fred or Brody, if you could read that to the people so they can actually hear what it says, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. So it would be a waste of the time and monetary resources to try to put a number on rehabilitation the existing building, simply because it is so far out of the range of the current building code requirements. In fact, we do not believe that there is a feasible method of making such an upgrade to the existing facility.
Okay, my point is, when this building was built in the late 50s, there was a committee, I'm assuming, and they went forward, they had a bond, and it was passed, and they did a great job. They built a structure that was probably bigger than what they needed, but it met the requirements up to about 20 years ago. About 20 years ago, there was an addition put on the back of that building to give a little bit of increased space. The building now, once again, it is too small. We park trucks out back because there's not enough room inside. We were 2.5 days trying to get our backup truck started so we could use it after a breakdown the other day in a snowstorm. We're looking to the future. Yes, if we build this 12,000 square foot building, it might be 20% too big. But with it being 20% too big, you're going to have options for the fire department, the Parks and Rec, and the police station, the cemetery to come over to use the facility. If they need a space inside to park something, they'll have a space. The town won't be buying another town garage because one of these other facets of the town needs garage space. As time goes on, we're thinking we built this building for 70 years out and we won't have to add on to it. That was why the decision was made to go with the size. This building shape, if you look over to the right on the poster board, this isn't something that was created on a whim. Sanbornton and Hopkinton, New Hampshire, in the last 3 years have both had the exact same building built, both with radiant slabs, one with a pellet boiler using the radiant slab. This is something we've gone out, found what's working the best for other towns, and we're going with it. That's why we've chosen this type of building, a brand new building with this brand new structure in the same location, because that location is fantastic. The fire department's there, the police is there, there's cold storage up back for the materials the highway department uses. It fits, and it's located in the center of town, which feeds all the different routes. Thank you.
Thank you, George. I want to thank all of you for participating. Those of you who raised questions, I'm going to close this budget hearing at 6:30. I'm going to open the next budget hearing, which is the River District Commission Redevelopment Project. And John Hennessy, thank you, Brody. John, if you're here, and you are here. He's here. Thanks. I mean, budget bond hearings. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm John Hennessy, Chairperson of the River District Redevelopment Commission. We've been working on this project for 2 years now, and tonight I want to touch on 3 key areas of the project. The first is the support and partnerships that the project has generated over the past 2 years. Second is the primary goal of the project, which is to fix the oldest infrastructure in the town of Littleton. And third, and most importantly tonight, is to talk about the funding for the project. It's been this commission's goal throughout the project these 2 years to bring the taxpayers the lowest tax impact possible while still funding this project. Fred, if you could go to the presentation. This is just a slide of some of the volunteer support that we've had in one of the volunteer days we had about a year ago. The next slide shows some of the partnerships. Sorry for the animation you're about to see. They're harder to take out of the presentation than they are to put in. But what this shows, first of all, the select board authorized this commission to pursue the vision for the River District about 2 years ago. And Fred, as town manager, has played a key role as a member of the commission in driving the project forward. This is an all-volunteer commission. and it brings with it expertise in a variety of areas, including engineering, planning, environmental impact, and funding as well. The Commission has worked very closely with Littleton Water and Light, which has been a fantastic partner in advising us along the way to ensure that the priorities of the Water and Light Department are considered in step with the priorities of the River District Commission and the town. LIDC and Littleton Main Street, who have done very similar successful projects in the past, have worked very closely with the Commission to make sure that we learn from the successes that they've had and avoid any of the challenges that they encountered along the way, which has allowed us to move along in a very efficient manner. And just in the past year, this commission has added liaisons from a variety of town organizations, including the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, and the Energy Conservation Commission. In total, there have been over 100 volunteers in the community that have worked for this project, and there have been over 30 businesses that have put forward financial support to the project. As far as the project goes and the progress that's been made to date, the primary goal is to fix infrastructure. This corridor along Saranac, Amanuset, and Mill Street the infrastructure was built back in the days of the mills, and it really hasn't had a significant upgrade since then. We've seen some serious maintenance issues over the past several years. The town put $50,000 into fixing a sewer and stormwater cross-connect issue that popped up. There's been a sinkhole. There's also been a water line break recently. So we want to avoid the maintenance costs and fix it right so that we're not going to encounter these issues going forward. And one of the primary reasons is that we think we can get it paid for without the town footing the full bill for the project. Once this project is complete, we're going to have a nice corridor adjacent to Main Street, which is looking fantastic, and adjacent to the river, which, in addition to just fixing the infrastructure, which is broken, will fuel economic development and job creation and just be a nice place for the residents of Littleton to use in the future. Fred, if you can, you're on there already. So this is the project summary. We're looking at a $7.5 million project broken up into 5 phases. $6.3 million is directly related to costs for sewer, stormwater, roads, and sidewalks, with the remaining $1.2 million being related to pedestrian bridge and riverwalk. If you go one more, Fred, the plans and preparation for the project have now been completed, which is why I'm here today on behalf of the Commission asking the Select Board to put forward this bond. We've completed a comprehensive plan. We've received a Shoreline Protection Act exemption. Traffic and parking study, as well as a second parking study, have been completed. We've got detailed engineering done on some problem areas by 2 Littleton engineering firms. Horizons Engineering of Littleton just completed the town-authorized engineering project that was voted in last year by the voters. There's a permaculture plan along the river that's been completed, looking at environmental impact. And most recently, a demonstration project was completed by local contractors primarily that has done kind of a 1A project to help demonstrate what this full build-out could look like when completed, and that project was 100% privately financed. Looking at the funding for the project, these are some of the renderings Fred just rolled through here. I've presented those before, but they show the vision. This is a comprehensive plan. The intent here is to do it the right way the first time, not have to complete one phase of something and then dig it up later to complete another phase. We've looked at it in totality. So funding, the town voted $80,000 last year towards this effort. $50,000 was to do a complete engineering plan. $30,000 was to negotiate rights of way. Of the $50,000 engineering plan, the Commission wanted to be as frugal as possible with the money that the town authorized. So the overall budget was pared down from $50,000 to $35,000 to be spent specifically on engineering the project, and Horizons is wrapping up completion of that now for a bill of $35,000. What's been done with that money in addition to just the engineering? That money has now been leveraged to achieve just over $1 million for the project. $250,000 was privately financed, $400,000 came from state programs, $250,000 from federal programs, and another $50,000 for a Rails to Trails grant. So that $80,000 has been leveraged to date into an additional $950,000 of funding. So how is that done? Well, the Commission has sat down with key local, state, and federal representatives and presented this plan, and just about everyone, and I think everyone we've presented to that we've wanted to buy in, has bought into the vision that we've put forward. They've come and toured the project site themselves, and they've put forward letters of support for the project, including the governor, our senators, and Representative Custer, as well as some others that I'm showing here. So why now is this important to move forward with? Well, we've really generated some significant momentum for the project. And we need to show some commitment as a town in order for these outside funders to be willing to put in significant additional money towards the project. This is the same way that we've done many projects in the community, including the industrial park, Main Street, Reddington Street Bridge, and others as well. In addition, some funding expires. We can't hope that people who put forward this funding will just leave it open indefinitely. One piece of the funding, the federal $250,000, is set to expire at the end of 2015 if not expended. So we can work with those funders to try to work with those timelines, but funding is, time is going to be of the essence as we move forward as well. So now is an important time. And finally, the bond. So on behalf of the River District Commission, I've asked the Select Board to put forward a $500,000 bond to fix the infrastructure. It would be funded by somewhere around half sewer reserve funds and half taxes. Two really important points. It would be contingent upon receiving $2 million of outside funding in addition to the $500,000 that the town would put forward. So that would guarantee a 20%, 80% match on the project, which has been frequently voted in by the town for past projects. In addition, this would be authorized in 2015, but very likely not placed until 2016, with interest payments in 2016 and principal payments beginning in 2017. It's going to take some time to gather the rest of the funding to be able to move forward with the project construction. So the overall goal is to leverage this $500,000 bond plus the $80,000 that was voted in last year, and Fred will talk to rights away for $40,000 as well, into the full $7.5 million project. So if that was to be obtained, we'd be looking at roughly 10% town funding for this overall project. So on behalf of the commission, I've asked the select board to vote for this bond.
Are there any questions? Bruce?
First one is, I would like to see the actual wording of the proposal for the bond. And I think that should be proposed to us, because I don't like to think that you have an open end that you can comp launch, do this money, whatever you want after it's raised. So a bond, when you have a hearing, you should be presenting it to the public on the basis of the wording to know whether you're going to spend it for certain things or not certain things. Are they conditioned on certain things? You shouldn't be just having a hearing without having a proposal of the actual bond itself. That's how the public in turn can make it aware of what's going to happen, and that's the conditions upon what it should be. The second part of it is, the other day I asked a question, and you said you were going to fund part of it under the sewer system out of the thing on it, which I got told that there was only $200,000 in the sewer fund on it. And a lot of what you're talking about is infrastructure underneath. And $200,000 is not a lot of money. And that takes care of the damages to your sewer plant down here if they had a piece of equipment break down. And I understand that within the last few years, that they've actually put a piece of equipment down there that costs $500,000. And if they've only got $200,000 now on the thing on it, and we end up utilizing that to give it to you people in here, what happens if that breaks down? I'll tell you what happens on it if it breaks down. If it breaks down there, the people who are on the sewer bills will double or substantially increase. You get a 9% charge on your sewer bills every time somebody pays it on it from that part. And if you don't have the money, you can't go back to the federal government, because it's how it's set up to be able to be using it. So consequently, you do not have enough money in the system to take care of if you had something that broke down in the main plant. And if you're not gonna have any money to go in out of that situation the way you got it now, to going in and putting it in for your infrastructure underneath, because there's a lot of it that's sewage that goes down through there too. You're not gonna have any money for that, out of that program.
A significant portion of the project is fixing broken sewer. The $50,000 I referred to that was spent about a year ago was fixing a sewer issue. We've got sewer and stormwater cross connects that are causing an environmental impact to the river as well, as impacting property owners. So whether a portion would come from sewer, either sewer reserve funds or sewer rates, and would specifically be fixing sewer issues.
Right.
To answer your first question, if you picked up a handout at the front of the room, it's labeled draft. This is the draft warrant as of today. Article 3 is entitled River District Commission Redevelopment Project. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $500,000 for the redevelopment project for the River District, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $500,000 in bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the municipal officials to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon, 3/5 ballot required. Funds will be used as leverage of match for grants, donations, and funds to develop, plan, improve, and construct infrastructure in the River District area. This is a non-lapsing appropriation until December of 2018 and is contingent on getting grant and other funding from other sources than the town. So that's the wording of the article. And then, based upon your comments of a week ago at the Selectmen's meeting, when I did answer about $200,000 in the reserve fund, I did ask Karen to refine that. We're just now closing out 2014, and it looks like we'll have closer to $300,000 in that reserve fund.
But that's still not a lot of money. If you had a breakdown in your main part of your sewer plant, and if you did, there's no provisions to have money to come back here without doubling cost of everybody's sewer bills. I mean, that's not very much money to base it on the fact of your equipment out of the thing, on what it costs down there. You just haven't got enough reserve on that part of it, and if you're going to go spend the thing on it, your potential for getting the people into trouble in here and increasing their sewer, never mind what they're going to pay on an increase in their tax bill, but your sewer bills out of the thing are only borne by the people that are using it. It's a user fee. So I just don't feel that you have a sufficient amount of money that's been in a reserve out of the thing on it. If you had half, $750,000 or something like this, then you might be able to do it, but not the amount of money that's carried forth out of it. How much do you generate every year, Fred? Do you know, Karen?
We generate about 60 to 70,000 in replacement fund money and about 100,000 in other fund to do with the sewer only. It's called undesignated reserve fund because it can only be used for sewer purposes. We also have a connection account, but that is a small amount of money, and it's based on connections, new additions to the sewer lines. This year, we only ended up with $2,900 in connection fees.
New connection fees?
New connection fees. We didn't have a lot of big buildings going in.
Brian.
In 2008, the sewage treatment plant was in a plant, as Bruce described, what could happen actually did happen. And the town put together a 5-year plan to upgrade that, which has been totally revised and implemented. And the infrastructure that's down in the sewage treatment plant is in a lot better shape in 2014 than it was in 2008. So what Bruce had concern about was a legitimate concern in 2008 because it was there. However, the plan has been implemented, been revised. So Bruce, your concerns about things breaking down has already been addressed and started being addressed in 2008. And it was a legitimate concern. The what is being proposed, potentially use sewer funds for sewer projects, is exactly what was done on the Main Street project and on the Grove Street project. So what is being proposed is not any different than what was done before. And what the selectmen decided to do, so that they didn't tap all of the sewer funds, was they used the sewer funds, and correct me if I'm wrong, to make some of the bond payments, so they didn't draw it all out at one time. So they had the same concerns that there was money set aside, but they were able to identify the costs that were attributable to the sewer system. They were able to do that, and then they contributed the costs over a period of time to help the taxpayers by making the bond payments. So those helped, and that's part of what management is with Fred and Karen and the selectmen looking at the numbers. And I think the other thing, you're claiming that numbers are going to double on some hypothetical. According to what I'm looking at, we have about a $700,000 sewer treatment plant, and under your scenario, we'd have a $700,000 loss. And I think that's speculative at best. What they're proposing, what John is proposing, is what we've done before. There's nothing new about this. And in all honesty, you know, John's proposal has only been 32 years in the making. We started the Economic Development Task Force in 1992, excuse me, not 32, 22 years in the making. And one of the goals for the area was to create the downtown and the river as our tourism catchment area. And as we developed the plan, Bob Copenhagen was the chair of the committee for the law, you had to prioritize. And one of the things we never quite got to was the Saranac area. We knew it was the oldest infrastructure, and we did some things. We put the Riverwalk 1 and Riverwalk 2 in. But the vision has always been, since 1992-3 when it was developed, was to have access, pedestrian access, from the Cottage Street Bridge to the Industrial Park Bridge. And that it would take a long time to get it funded and to use non-taxpayer resources as much as we could. So this is something that's been in the works for a long time, and there's been many selectmen that have posed. This is the first time that they've been in place because of the engineering study to make a comprehensive proposal. So what you're concerned about is a legitimate concern, except it doesn't fit the facts of the circumstances. And the key thing that everyone has to remember is that our sewer rates are so low that we don't qualify for rural development. Now, that's no big incentive for the selectmen to raise the rates to do it. And matter of fact, when they looked at, what was it, double, Fred, would it double the rates?
Approximately, yeah.
If we had done the rural development bond that or had been proposed, it would have doubled the rates. So the selectmen, the town manager, the selectmen, and the commission said, that doesn't make any sense. Why are we doing it? So what John is proposing is to enhance and improve the sewage treatment plant. The sewage treatment plant, Larry Jackson told me 4 or 5 years ago, to replace it is about $25 million, might be 30 to 35 at this point. It's our most valuable asset, and we must tend to it. One of the most important things that we are continually working on is eliminating cross connects. When Main Street was done, one of the main reasons why Main Street was done was that on the sunny side of the street, or the north side of the street, there were storm drains, roof drains connected directly into the sewage treatment system. Bafito's, the bank, a whole series, Eames property, all of them dump their water right into the sewage treatment plant. So every gallon that we can eliminate from cross-connect from storm drain into the sewer saves us money and expands the lifespan of the sewage treatment plant. Every gallon you don't treat is a gallon that, for a variable cost point of view, saves us money. Now, it's hard to calculate what the cross-connect savings will be from this project, except that it's part of the bigger picture that has been in place for, Fred, Karen, how long have you guys been working on cross-connects?
Since I've been here, and it's 13 years, so I know it's been longer than that.
So, this is an ongoing problem that we have. Most towns have the same thing, and you address it. No one was more surprised, correct me if I'm wrong, Fred, when you discovered the cross-connects that came off. You know the building that my folks used to own, Bruce, on Main Street? That was connected right into the sewer system. Right. So that was connected. That $50,000 did save us some money because it got it out of the sewer system and put it into the storm system. There's only one problem. The storm system is inadequate. If you have a major storm, especially on the Saranac end, the area floods out. That's been one of the problems on the Mill Street property. So what's being proposed, I mean, everyone's getting worked up about, this is an infrastructure project. And that's all it is. It's nothing more. And we've done these projects before, and that's what separates Littleton from so many other communities, that we do infrastructure very well. And at the end of the day, those infrastructure improvements that John has proposed is going to save us some money.
Ron Bolt.
Just a couple of technical questions on the wording of this bond. I'm assuming this has been through DRA. No. Okay with it? No? Okay.
They've done a quick review of it, and that has been it.
Yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable in that it's different than what I'm used to seeing in a warrant article. There's no mention of any funding coming from the sewer fund or any other fund. So if you just read it cold, it looks like it's $500,000 of taxpayer money. And secondly, you make a general statement about leveraging other funds. There's no mention about that. That has to come up to $2 million. So it's a little vague, and hopefully people won't misunderstand that. Maybe there can be some clarification. And I do have a comment after all the questions.
Thank you. Other questions?
I have comments also when questions are done.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Miller. About 2 months ago or so, I attended a meeting, and the engineers were there, Horizons, I believe, and John, they discussed the traffic flow, and it seemed there was some, the residents that would be affected locally had some significant concerns about the traffic flow. My question is, I don't want this to be a problem down the line. Has this situation been resolved with the residents of that area, and where does it stand?
Yeah, a public meeting was held that you're referring to. We had quite a few residents along the Saranac and Manusic Street corridor attend, which was by design. Many were invited who were potentially going to be impacted by the engineering plan as has been proposed. So one of the items for discussion was traffic flow. There's a dangerous intersection at the end of Saranac where it intersects with Meadow Street, and the town had some concern. As it is right now, it would not be approved today if it was to be built like that. DOT would not allow that angle intersection. So the town and the Horizons was discussing potential of going to one-way traffic at that end of Saranac Street to improve safety. And the residents presented some concern. Several of them presented concerns going to one-way at that point. Horizons took that feedback as well as all the other feedback from that meeting, and traffic flow is currently proposed to remain exactly the same as it is today, except for a one-way stretch which is on Amanusic Street. Trying to think of how best to explain where that would be. It's a very short stretch that is much narrower road, close to where Bank of New Hampshire is in a yellow warehouse building right now. The remainder of the entire district would remain with the same traffic flow as today, and even with that one way, there are alternative routes. It creates kind of a convenient circular traffic flow in that area. So I believe that the primary concerns of those residents were addressed with that remaining two-way traffic. Horizons is still working with, there are 3 parcels that would be impacted by a redesigned intersection at that Saranac Meadow intersection, and Horizons is still working with those property owners to see what we could come up with to mutually agree upon an arrangement there.
Ready to follow up on that?
I'm sorry?
Ready to follow up about that area? The other concern that they had, and I had too, was some of the area wasn't wide enough, the streets, to accommodate a sidewalk. And as Brian and a few other people have mentioned, it'd be a good flow of traffic in there, and also, we'd be checking the area out as citizens and walks. Is there going to be a situation in which a sidewalk all of a sudden disappears down there, especially that one-way area?
A sidewalk has been one of the primary focuses of this project to make sure that it's safe. Today, in many areas, including the intersection as well as behind Bank of New Hampshire, there's no pedestrian safe route. So the current engineering plan does have a 5-foot sidewalk that is curbed to protect pedestrians from traffic, in addition to 2 travel lanes. So that is a key component of the engineering plan that's completed.
Thanks, Dick. Well, I have 2 requests for comments. We're down to 4 minutes. Mr. Bolt, why don't you make your comment first? And then Dan, I believe you have one.
I support both projects. I'm concerned that we're bringing 2 bonds before the people in one town meeting. The Public Works garage missed by a handful of votes last year. I think that the chances of that passing this year are somewhat jeopardized by bringing another bond forward. I understand the logic of it, and maybe a lot of people will understand the logic of it, in that it's a contingency bond, and it's based on getting some other funds and whatnot. But I'm worried that some voters will look there and they'll see 1.3 and another $500,000, and you can lose one or the other, or possibly both bonds.
Thank you. Dan?
Well, I'm against the project the way it's put forth. It was said that the taxpayers won't be footing the whole cost, just about half. And the phrase tourism catchment area was mentioned. Where there are utilities, infrastructure that's needed, the people who use those utilities should be the ones who are paying for that. If there was seen a need that this was coming up, the ratepayers should have had that added to their rates to come up to the price that was needed to fix their system for them. I don't use their system. Now, you could say that when I go down there, I might use something from a retailer down there. And of course, that would be reflected in the cost that I would pay. I don't mind that. But the bridge, no. If the bridge is to bring business in, and again, that's the business owners, the Chamber of Commerce, the business owners should be responsible for that. It's going to be something that we're going to have to maintain, the taxpayers are going to have to maintain in the future, and that's not right. We will also, if this is passed, we will, and they said it won't be a cost to us next year, but what we'll be doing is we will be passing costs voted in this year to future taxpayers. And we have this whole system in this country where our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren are burdened with debt before they're even born. And this is not something that we should be doing. Anything business-related should be paid for by the businesses, as I said about the bridges. Anything that's infrastructure, utilities, should be paid for by the people who use those, not the people. I know hundreds of people who don't use those. That's my comment on that.
Thank you, Dan. I'll take Rudy first.
Okay.
We're down to 2 minutes here.
This is just a little comment, under the belief of so many people that the River District is a very, a good project that people in Littleton support. I take a walk, in Main Street, and I went about 45 business people. And over 45 business people, 40 of them, they don't like the project for so many reasons, which, it would take too long to explain. And this is just a comment.
Thank you. Mr. Ward, you have the last comment here. I'm going to close the hearing.
The same issue that I raised about having on that warrant article also, as far as that amount goes, so that they'll know. It's been my experience, and I think John and Fred are being more optimistic about, and the selectmen, that the funds will be necessary a year from now. Historically, if we look at the Bob Corey Bridge, you look at Main Street, the funding cycle for construction was 2 to 3 years out. And this one, because of all the parts and pieces, I personally believe the fund will not be necessary into 2017. But I realize that you have to be conservative and show what the impact would be in 2016, which is the right thing to do. And if there's any way the selectmen can roll it over into 2017 so that your first payment is 2018, we pay off a $500,000 bond for the town building, $500,000 bond for Bob Corey Bridge, and a $500,000 bond for Main Street. So the ability to manage your capital bond costs should be a critical part of what you're doing, and I know that what you're doing. As to former Selectman Bolt's comments, in 2008, 4 bond issues passed. The police station passed, the Grove Street and sidewalks passed, the Main Street project passed, I meant Reddington Street Bridge. Well, there were 4 bond issues that passed. The voters in Littleton have been able to separate the wheat from the chaff. They understand the question of leveraging because we've done it before. And with good management control, which you guys have done historically through other groups of selectmen, to not have a spike in the expenses for the bond payments is something that's extremely manageable under this project. And the most important thing was it happened in 08 with the town building. Excuse me, the town building was 07, Reddington Street and Main Street. If you don't have the funds available on the local level, it's hard to get the partnership for the other funding. And that's the way projects have been done here in Littleton. The Industrial Park was the same way. Industrial Park, $4 million, we got $1 million into it. If we didn't put the skin in the game to build the Industrial Park from the town's perspective, the other funds wouldn't be available. So what John is proposing has been done many times in Littleton.
Thank you. I'm closing this hearing, this bond hearing. John, I want to thank you very much for your presentation tonight, and I want to thank all of you who participated. We're going to open now the budget hearing for the town of Littleton.
Good evening, I'm Fred Moody. Breaking things. I want to thank you all for coming tonight, and we had a good discussion on a couple of articles on the warrant. What we hope to get through tonight is the default operating budget and the rest of the articles on the warrant. Right now, the warrant is 48 articles long, and that's a little more than we had last year. I hope you all picked up a copy of the handouts up in front. What specifically we'd like to go over tonight is the operating budget. It's 32 pages of the operating budget, the draft warrant articles, and then a large sheet, two-sided, that I prepared as hopefully a relatively short overview for ease of managing the meeting tonight. Before I get into the budget, though, I did just want to state that we do have the deliberative session coming up on February 3rd, and then town meeting on March 10th. And the deliberative session will be here. So with that, I have a few slides here that give some introduction, and then we can get into the more detail. The proposed budget for 2015 is $49,738. That's $64,461 over last year's budget, or 0.81%.
Fred, you said 8,000, did you change that to 8 million?
Thank you. $8,049,738, which is an increase of $64,000 over last year's, or 0.81%. The default is $7.9 million, which is down from the last year's approved budget by $78,000. or that's a decrease of 0.98%. So the proposed of $8,049,738 and the default of $7,907,131 has a $142,607 difference, or 1.8%. One of the things that we've been criticized before is not giving the voters a choice, enough choice between the default and the proposed. But I think if you look here, we have about a 1% difference. Almost a full third of 30% of the budget is wages. Wages for last year, and this is for all of the employees, but excluding library, overtime, and elected officials other than the town clerk, is relatively flat. I just wanted to put this together so you could see that difference between 2014, 2015 default, and 2015 proposed is pretty even, of 30.15%, 30.61%, and 30.38%. However, that does reflect that in the proposed budget, a increase of 2 or 2.5% for the two unions, and the 2.25% for the non-union employees. In the default budget, the 2 and 2.5% for the two unions is in there, but there would be no increase or no wage increase for the non-union employees. We talked a little bit about debt service before. In 2014, we eliminated the landfill closure bond, and the fire department ladder truck were paid off, saving $220,000. In 2014, but carried forward in 2015, additional debt was incurred for the highway truck and the Pleasant Street sidewalk of $61,541. So the net savings in debt service for these adjustments is $155,000. However, we refinanced the Trans-Canada loan along with some other debt reductions, just normal principal and interest reductions. So the total debt savings between 2014 and 2015 is almost $300,000, $298,393.
I apologize, but are you in here? And if you are, could you?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not there. And this is the debt service that shows that. Some other major points related to personnel is the health insurance. From 2014 to 2015, we've seen more than an average change in staff benefit costs. We've had a number of retirements, people have changed their status, but we're also fortunate to see that our rates were down by about 10% for health insurance. This saves the town about $65,000. In the past couple of years, we've worked with the unions to try and offset the cost of rising health costs, and we've changed that so that union and non-union employees are now paying 5% increase towards their share of premiums this year. And we changed the driver plan from a Blue Choice to a HMO and doubled the co-pay amounts. So with all of those changes, this means that both the default and proposed budgets, about $101,000 have been saved just in the health insurance line alone.
Excuse me, are you taking any questions or anything?
No, not yet, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Workers' compensation, we received a credit last year of about $13,000 out of a total of $95,000. We don't know whether we're going to see any similar savings this year, but if we do, it will be help offset our rate. And we've also seen several years of increased claims due to higher medical costs. Our experience ratio of 106% has been partially due to uninsured motorists injured staff injuries. And we had $154,000 in claims in 2013, $105 in 2014, and last year we had a good year with only $17,000. Our highest claim year was in 2009 of almost $350,000. So we're hoping to see that rate drop. Unemployment taxes, relatively small line item, but our unemployment coverage is $7,835, which is slightly higher than the 2014. And this is due in part to the use of more temporary and part-time seasonal staff in many departments. Our property liability insurance would seem a premium credit adjustment, and we have not seen in the past, is not expected in next year. This credit was related to a lawsuit between the Health Trust and the state of New Hampshire. We also have had about $85,000 in claims during 2014. We added new Mill Street improvements to our covered asset list, and our insurance year is from July to June. So we don't know exactly what it's going to be, but we've added 17% to our property liability insurance. What I went through that for was, as I go through the other departments, I didn't want to spend a lot of time on those items because those items generally apply to all departments and in many cases to both the default and the proposed budget. But what I thought would be worthwhile is to go through the large sheet. If you have your 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17 sheet, the side that is entitled Comparison of 2014 to 2015 Budget, and it's a horizontal sheet. And what it does is take each one of the departments that we track according to the DRA and shows you the 2014 budget, what that tax impact was, the 2015 default, the tax impact, 2015 proposed, the impact, and the difference. So with executive offices, the difference between the 2014 and 2015 proposed is down 1.34% or $3,500. The election registration vitals is down 0.89% or $1,474. Tax collecting is down 2.13% or $1,641. Financial administration is up 5.61% or $8,730, and that's primarily due to insurance plan changes. Assessing is up $36,711 or 44%. Reason for that is it's a reval year, and we are looking to establish a 5-year agreement with our utility assessing company, and we will also need to re-up a stabilization agreement with TransCanada. Legal is level funded for the period. Personnel administration is up $12,361 or 15.29% due to insurance rate increases with added random drug testing, increased physicals, and hearing tests. Planning and zoning is down $3,448 or 4.21%. But one significant change there is we have included a $2,000 stipend for the zoning officer. The health officer gets a $2,000 stipend, and it seemed only fair that the zoning officer, for the amount of work he's been doing lately, should get a similar amount. General government and buildings is up $26,806 or 30.62%. Doing quite a bit of work. We need to stabilize the parking lot at the Opera House, replace 2 double doors on Union Street, and continue with some exterior building maintenance. We need to do some painting and some window upgrades. Cemeteries is 1,500, is up 1,500, 1.96%. That was a 2% increase request. Town insurance, just make sure I'm carrying this forward right. Town insurance is up $11,039, or 22.57, and that's due to rate increase and the reduced reimbursement that we just talked about. Advertising regional associations, 4.24%, or $869. That's for annual report printing costs. And other general government is up $100, or 0.24%. The regional airport fee increase. In that line item, we have also included the Littleton Chamber of Commerce in past years. A number of years ago, it was requested that many of the outside groups submit petitioned articles, and they have done so continuously, which we'll see on when we get to the warrant articles. However, the Chamber was delayed in getting their petitioned article to us, so there's been a request that we amend that line by $15,000 to include the Littleton Area Chamber of Commerce as we have funded in past years. The police department is up $9,585, or 0.71%. That includes the 2 sign-on bonuses for replacement staff, building maintenance. The building, believe it or not, is starting to show some age. A carbon monoxide detector, a rear door camera, ballistic vests, and data download hardware. Dispatch is up $12,009, or 6.92%. We anticipate that that's what they're going to bill us based upon their increase in cost and our experience rate for the upcoming year. The ambulance is up $1,939, or 2%, while that tracks with the cost of living. We haven't seen that, and it will be coming in around the 1st of March. But we've budgeted 2% for that. Fire department looks like a large number, 63,508, or 6.43%. But if you recall, last year the voters approved for the extra day for expanded coverage at the fire station, and that is carrying forward into this year as a full 12-month increase. They have reduced the overtime and have budgeted for some extra vehicle repairs. Public Works Administration is down $1,664, 1.66%. There's just been a change of personnel due to that. The Highway Department is up $58,587, or 6.42%. And that's comprised of some increase in overtime, town parking plowing, additional costs, retaining wall, catch basin materials, sand hauling, and road repairs. The Highway Department is planning on internalizing some of their extra costs this year and getting more accomplished, and they need some more funding to accomplish that extra work. Bridges and sidewalks is down $1,500, or 75%. We just don't need the appropriation this year for that item. Street lighting and hydrants is level funded. However, we will be covering $600 to start paying for the covered bridge lighting, which has previously been paid for by Main Street Inc., and also to pay for some upgrades to lighting in the Mill Street area. Animal control is down $1,000. Welfare, we've decreased that by $10,000. We've put money in reserve funds to help modify or ameliorate the need to have any large swings in that budget. Patriotic Purposes is down $200. Conservation Commission is level funded, and Transfer Station Recycling is down $20,000 or 5.54%. However, we will be seeing some increase in waste tipping and transportation fees by our contract operator. Library is up $5,324 or 2%, which is pretty consistent with personnel cost increases. Parks and Rec is up $4,500 and $8 at 1.3%. Some additional building maintenance training, including the liability insurance and workers' comp. So the total for the outside board funds is $9,832. And then we talked about debt service. With all of the changes in the debt service, it's down $161,775 or 13.5%. As a result of the landfill closure, the ladder truck, and refinance of the Trans-Canada bond. The Opera House is up $1,570. The Enterprise Fund, primarily due to insurance. Special detail outside is $99 or 0.93%. Parking meter expenses is up $926 or 1.3%. Sewer users is up $14,932. That was a 1.4% increase in the contract operator contract to operate the plant and building software upgrade. So total enterprise funds is up $17,527. So that all increases. The difference between the adjusted total budget is $64,462. Taking the revenues out of that, we're projecting a 1.6% or about a 10-cent increase in the proposed budget. And if you take that line to the left, under the default, you can see that the default revenue or default budget expenses less revenues would result in about a $6.36 tax impact. So I did this as a result, as a way to consolidate the 32 pages that you have in front of you of a detailed budget. The detailed budget has been reviewed extensively by the selectmen and the budget committee. The budget committee is meeting one more time tomorrow night to act on these items and the warrant articles. But I thought that with the relatively small changes this year, that going through line by line of the hundreds of lines probably isn't worth it, and it would probably be best to open it up for any questions or comments from the public before we move on to the warrant articles.
Dan?
Yeah, Fred, what is the total cost of wages and health care? What is the total bill?
On a percentage basis, total personnel is a little less than 50%.
No, what is the, money-wise, what is the total cost for salaries and benefits, and then the total cost of health care?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I did show you the total cost for wages. That's about 30%. Okay? But I did not include, I did not. Well, so the default is 2.4 million, 2.420501, and then the proposed is 2,445,371.
And that's just wages, not benefits?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Bolt?
Yeah, I rise to mildly object to the action that the board has taken regarding the late entry of the Chamber of Commerce request. Don't want to get into a philosophical debate about the value of that, but I would hope, and I know that you can't commit a future board to a decision that you make tonight, but I would hope that next year that a petition would be expected from the Chamber. And I don't think they should be rewarded by becoming a permanent part of the budget because they missed the deadline.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Fred, do you want to move on to the warrant article?
What I would like to do is, so here again, on the flip side of the large summary sheet is just that, a summary of the 7-page warrant, draft warrant that has also been handed out. As I said, we're looking at 48 warrant articles, with the first one being the election of officers. I do think we only have a few officers. We have, what do I have here? Well, I guess I don't have that slide, but I think there are only four open positions. You have that, Karen?
I'll give you mine.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you. One selectman to a 3-year term, one trustee of the trust fund for a 3-year term, one park commissioner for a 3-year term, and 3 library trustees for 3-year terms. Sorry, actually, I have that. Right there. Then we talked about the bond article, town garage bond article for $1.3 million. As Mr. Ward suggested, we could include that would be deferred into 2016, and that would amount to about $106,459 for a 15-year note at 2.83% or 13.8 cents on the tax rate. Article 3 would be the River District Bond, match funds for grants of $500,000. Similarly, that would be deferred for future into 2016, 2017, 2018, before it was likely assumed as debt. And we've estimated a 10-year note at 2.83% for that too. So that would be $57,500 per year, or 7.4 cents on the tax rate. Article 4 is the synthetic cannabinoids ordinance, and there's a copy up front of that, which will be posted with the warrant. This is intended to assist the police department in enforcement of these marijuana-like substances, and a number of towns throughout the state and cities and towns have adopted a similar ordinance. Then Article 5 is the 2015 proposed and default operating budgets, which we just reviewed, and the totals for those show up again at the bottom of this spreadsheet. Article 6, sale of town property. Been approached to have a lot line adjustment subdivision for Washington Street lot, map 79, lot 201, and to sell a portion of that, which would not impact the school's storage building, and it would not be needed for town purposes. The town would additionally benefit by having a driveway relocated that is currently on town property. Article 7, Dells Dam. Back in 2012, 2 articles were appropriated, one for improving the dam and the other for culvert replacement. We have been studying the issue since 2012, and our consultants indicate that we may be able to meet New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services requirements by raising the dam face and height by about 18 inches, and therefore avoiding having to remove the dam, which would be very costly and of questionable environmental impact downstream. But more importantly, people that I talk to in town see that as an asset that they would like to keep, and this would be a way in which we could do that. So the cost for that is $174,285. All that money had been previously appropriated, so that there would be no tax impact.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr.
Is it
Warden.
all right to ask a question?
I'm sorry?
Is it all right to ask a question?
Do you want to run through and then?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Now, have you received an estimate from an engineering company or anyone as to what the cost of increasing the height is? Because it's $174,000 seems to be a lot of money just to raise the height of the dam.
Well, yeah, it's more than that. You would have to rebuild the abutments for the current bridge that's there and reset the bridge and the design engineering costs. What we've received from Headwaters Hydrology is we can't give you an estimate until we get the design done, and the design money would be part of this. So it would probably take another year to do the design, and then would come back, and if there was any extra money needed, would ask for it, or if there would be money that we could return, we would return that. Article 8, RSA 35-9-A, Roman numeral 2, authorization for the trustees of the trust fund to pay for a capital reserve fund investment, management services, and any other expenses incurred from capital reserve fund income. So what this is, the auditors have recommended that this has been a past practice of the trustees of the trust fund, and that we simply get full authorization from the voters according to the applicable statute. The trustees asked me to have this placed on the warrant. And what that doesn't say, if that sentence is cut off, if you go to Article 8, it talks about no vote by the town to rescind such authority shall occur within 5 years of the original adoption of this article. The purpose for that is that the investment advisors want to see some long-term security or commitment by the town for that investment fund management service program. Article 9, Fire Department, self-contained breathing apparatus, refill compressor, $13,299. This is the town's share of a federal grant, and what the selectmen have suggested is that we take $13,299 out of the fund balance for that grant match amount, so that there is no impact on the tax rate. Article 10, to establish a capital reserve fund and place the money from the Conservation Commission unexpended fund balance. It's $57,694.61. Here again, it's somewhat of a housekeeping article in that this does say 1980s. I believe that 1980s should be changed to 1994 in both this and your draft warrant. So Karen was able to research that and find that it's only been since 1984 that while the Conservation Commission has been accruing those funds, they haven't had the vote of the town to do it correctly. Here again, it's a recommendation by the auditors. Article 11, Fire Department Capital Reserve Fund Vehicle Purchase, $50,000, tax rate impact of 6.5 cents. Engine 6 is getting old and tired. The department retired their pickup truck last year. So they'd like to put some money aside to begin a capital reserve fund, and also to be able to have ready access to some capital if a good used surplus vehicle becomes available. And I see the fire chief with his hand up, so.
Just a minor correction, Fred.
Yep.
We just refurbished engine 6. We're anticipating the replacement of engine 3.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Article 12, Police Department, 2015 cruiser replacement. Cruiser cost would be $37,500, with $20,000 being taken from the capital, from the fund balance. Practice that we have done at least last year, if not for the past 2 years, leaving $17,500 to be raised from taxes, or 2.3 cents. Article 13, Police Department cruiser safety equipment, $6,000. With that $6,000 to come out of the special detail reserve fund, thereby incurring no tax impact. Article 14, Police Department, it says Detective Patrol Officer, 9-month position, $63,857 with no offsetting money, so that would cost 8.3 cents on the tax rate for drug major crime intervention. What this really is to do is to put some extra boots on the street and try and keep some of the drug crime under control that we're seeing escalating, especially in the downtown area.
Yes, Dan.
This $63,857, does this include the benefits or just the pay?
That includes the benefits.
Benefits also, thank you.
Article 15, Highway Department, 2015 F-550 truck with plow and equipment, $79,500. What we've decided is to approach this on a 3-year loan basis, something we've done in the past with other vehicles. So a 3-year loan would mean the 1-year appropriation, the first year appropriation of $27,400, or 3.6 cents on the tax rate. Article 16, the Highway Department Capital Reserve Fund for the salt shed, $20,000. Total capital purchase of this has been estimated around $65,000. And where we're asking for the town garage bond and some other highway equipment, felt we could defer this for another year or two. But the real impetus is that being able to buy sand in bulk in the off-season months will save the town money in the long run. So we've structured it in such a way that $20,000 would come out of the fund balance, and there would be no impact on the tax rate. Article 17, the Highway Department used excavator and trailer, $95,000. Here again, we did it similar to the truck in that we're going to do propose a 3-year loan. So the first year appropriation would be $32,935, or 4.3 cents on the tax rate. We haven't had an excavator in the past. We just had the backhoe. An excavator is perhaps a more versatile machine that can do quite a bit more than the backhoe, and ultimately will allow the Highway Department crew to be more efficient and get more jobs done with contracting less out. Article 18, Church Street retaining wall reconstruction, $70,000 with $20,000 offset. $10,000 would come from the Sidewalk Capital Reserve Fund and $10,000 from the adjacent property owner, leaving $50,000 to be appropriated from taxes, or 6.5 cents. Article 19, transfer station, container replacement, refurbishment of the MSW and the auger containers, $12,000, with $12,000 coming out of their enterprise fund. Their MSW, solid waste, and furniture, bulk, auger containers are getting tired, and this will allow Brian and company to at least purchase one new container next year and hopefully refurbish one more to get a few more years out of it. Article 20, transfer station improvements and supplies. This is their general standard article that they use money from their enterprise fund to help underwrite the cost of their operations, and that's $12,000 offset by their enterprise fund from revenues, so there's no tax impact on that. Article 21, reconstruct High Street. This is to supplement the last year's appropriation. When we got into bidding that, we didn't realize that the water and sewer lines were so close underground, so to meet current standards, those have to be separated, thereby involving quite a bit more construction on High Street. So we encumbered last year's money and asking for another $60,000 to supplement last year's appropriation, and $20,000 of that would go towards the sewer work. So $40,000 would come out of taxation, or 5.5 cents.
Question. You get back to your sewer, and that part of your sewer user fee?
Correct.
So you're not, but the way I thought you just explained it was you were appropriating it.
The sewer fund would not go to repay the River District debt. If there's funds...
I'm thinking about the River District. I'm talking about High Street.
Would you please repeat your question?
You just brought up High Street.
Yeah.
And you said that they were going to redo High Street, and you needed another $60,000 to do High Street over, and you said part of it was the sewer in here, and I'm saying the fact is if it's a sewer, it has to come out of the sewer user fee.
Sure.
If you read the warrant article does explain that $20,000 will be coming out of the sewer user restricted fund balances.
That's what I was going to say.
So the actual impact is going to be on the difference between the $60,000 and the $20,000. So the tax impact is the .052 on that amount.
And the same will apply to the next two articles, Bruce. Okay. Reconstruct Upper Grove Street, Article 22. $165,000 for the total project cost, with $60,000 coming out of the sewer fund, leaving $105,000 to come out of the raised by taxation, or that would be 13.6 cents. Article 23, reconstruct Knight Ave, total project cost of $150,000, with $70,000 coming out of the sewer fund, leaving $80,000 to be raised from taxation, or 10.4 cents.
Now, my question.
Bruce and then Dan.
Well, you said if you add those three together, you're taking it out of your sewer user fee. Now, you said you added $100,000 to it. You've exhausted over the $100,000, so you're going to come back to maybe a reserve of maybe $200,000 in there.
Correct.
So if you've got $200,000 in there, you're not going to be able to do anything for the River District out of it because you won't have any money.
And that sewer fund gets built up every year. The River District monies will not be expended for a few years, and by that time, it should have a chance to rebuild.
Dan.
I read it in here, so I got my answer. Thank you.
Brian.
I salute the town for what you're doing, because also, isn't Littleton Water and Light also participating in this as far as if there's any need to upgrade
That's correct.
their infrastructure? I mean, for years, the town would do the sewer line one year, the water line the next year, then do the paving, and then start all over again. You're coordinating these three projects for sewer, water, storm drain, paving, and that's, so it's a complete one, so that when you dig it up once, you only are going to be digging it up one time.
That's the goal, that's the intent, yes. So those three major construction projects, High Street, Upper Grove Street, and Night Ave, being proposed for this summer. Article 24, Energy Conservation Commission, $35,250. There would be 4.6 cents on the tax rate for a relamping project and grant match appropriation. The original discussion with the Energy Conservation Commission was for $25,000. They hired, were able to get grant monies from PUC to hire a consultant to come in and look at all of the town buildings. They have done that, and now it's time to move into trying to relamp some of the town buildings. So this would be used to do that. And then we also sat down with the department heads for the highway department, fire department, brought in the expert on the pellet boiler, and felt as though with or without the new town garage, getting a better handle on some of the 20-plus year old systems that are in place there for the heating, the fire suppression, fire alarm system is in order to have a coordinated approach. So we did get a proposal from a local firm, Yetton Associates, to help with that, and that money has also been included. Whatever was not included in the original design work for the highway garage. So that brought that up by about $10,000 from $25,000 to $35,250.
Bruce, sorry.
I read the article in the newspaper. That doesn't mean it's correct, but I did read it in there on it about this, and I'm not convinced that what you're doing is in the best interest of our town, okay? The utilities that we own, or the people own, the Littleton Water and Light Department. The people own it, not, yes, it's the town, but the people are the ones that in turn are the ones that end up paying or getting the benefits of it. It's well run. Consequently, they still need to have a profit. And if you keep cutting all your expenses down out of the thing on it, they in turn are going to increase the cost onto the burden onto the people are concerned. Now, who pays the bills on your overall taxation, or when you get your bills for your water and your stuff in here, are the people. You're getting your power companies, not just the dam, but you have your power companies, you have all the landowners, and the majority of your commercial properties in the town of Littleton are all owned by outsiders. They're not the people in your community. So it's a false economy of what you're talking about by raising this money to try to do this overall thing. About the only way you could do it, I think, is to shut off the lights. George told me that one of the things he found was down at the town garage, they didn't have a tendency to shut the lights out. And I think that was one of your biggest savings out of it. But businesses, in turn, get a different type of electricity in the town of Littleton on it, too. They have what's called demand electricity on it. And when you get demand electricity, you pay a higher rate on a commercial basis out of it. But this is not a good thing to be turning around and trying to, in turn, lower the cost down here for the utilities for the people in the community. Because who's paying the bill? The bill is being paid for by your taxation out of it, and the power company at the present time, I think probably, what percentage do they pay your taxes?
Which power company?
Oh, I'll use the dam, for instance.
I can't tell you that off the top of my
Approximately?
head.
They pay 25%?
All the utilities, I think, is about 30%.
30%, okay, so 30% is there. Then you've got all you people that own land. I happen to be a landowner myself out of it. But people who own land, in turn, that are not locally here out of it, are paying in too on it, and those people, in turn, are paying electric bills. So when you get playing with these games out of it, that these guys want to save all these unplugging or changing the light fixtures around and stuff like this on it, the potential for anybody is the fact that the water and light may have to have an increase in cost because of the fact that you drive it down, and they have to have a profit out of it too. It's not a good thing to be doing. My recommendation is that you vote that down.
Yes.
I'd just like to comment on that. I would think, first of all, that it would be great if we could save a little bit of money by getting on energy costs for the town. Also, if we are using less energy, then it would seem to me that the power companies would have, or at least water and light, would have to purchase less energy. So there would be savings there. So I'm all for saving money if we can by just getting better lights in the town buildings.
Thank you. Yeah.
I don't believe that the wastewater treatment plant should be included in this warrant article. I believe anything that is done to the wastewater treatment plant should be paid for by the users of that utility.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Paul.
I would just like to point out that every utility company in the state of New Hampshire offers incentives and rebates for energy efficiency.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Part of the energy efficiency study that we did was to go in with motion sensors and so forth that will shut the lights off. So a part of our investment on the Energy Committee side is to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Article 25, Cottage Street, Pleasant Street Sidewalk Transportation Alternatives Grant. The town submitted a grant to New Hampshire Department of Transportation for $391,904. We're told that we have to gross appropriate that number, so that's what the purpose of this warrant article is to have the voters authorize the town to accept and expend the $391,904 should we be so lucky as to get the grant. As I said, that's for complete rebuild of Cottage Street sidewalk from South Street all the way up to Route 302 turnoff.
Dan?
To say that is no tax impact is kind of fudging. For instance, if the grants are granted, then we're going to be asking for this, and there would be a tax impact. So if the people vote this in, and the grants come, there is going to be a tax impact. It's not true that there is no tax impact.
It's a grant-funded program. It's not our tax money directly.
We're asking, we don't have to come up with anything, any leverage or any matching funds?
It's a grant.
No,
Okay, then forget what I said.
That's fine. Thank you.
Never mind.
Disregard.
Fred?
Article 26, Remick Park Building Replacement Capital Reserve Fund, $10,000 would be raised from taxation, or 1.3 cents. What we've learned in the last year is several state agencies have inspected the Remick Park building and have determined that there are significant safety and life safety code violations. Parks Department is responding to that. They have changed some of their operations, but essentially that building is probably slated for replacement in the not-too-distant future. This $10,000 is a first attempt to help the Parks Department move in that direction. We certainly hope that it would be able to leverage some funds from some other sources, but if we want to support continued recreational programs at Remick Park, they're going to have a new building. Article 27, River District Rights-of-Way Land Acquisition Fund, $40,000, would have a tax impact of 5.2 cents. That's for continued realignment of Saranac Street rights-of-ways. Question was asked earlier where we were at. I guess Mr. Massimillo has left, but I am working with one of the affected properties attorneys, and we're making some progress. The engineers have been talking with at least 2 of the other landowners and have made some adjustments in the roadway realignment. There's some large aerial photos over to the left here after the hearing tonight if you want to stop and take a look at what's being proposed. But that Saranac Street does need to be reconfigured, realigned, if it's going to continue to serve the townspeople well into the future, because the current intersection with Meadow Street is just unsafe.
Rudy?
Yeah, just a little question. I mean, you know, it's $40,000 to do all this work over here, seems like, you know. I mean, a lot of people are not going to believe that, because with the $40,000, are you going to acquire land from the people that live over there and do all this structural work? I mean, you know, $40,000 in my book, you know, I mean, today, real estate or whatever it is, it's nothing. I mean, you know, maybe I misunderstand, you know, the Warrant article, but $40,000, how are you gonna do all this work with the $40,000? Don't you think you mislead the people?
Well, the two parcels that this is directed at,
yes,
both have a appraised value or assessed value of $20,000. So if we can resolve those 2 parcels with the $40,000, then we will, plus the money that was appropriated last year, then that roadway can be realigned. It's really those 3 critical pieces that need to be acquired. So this is for the last 2.
That's mean that $40,000 you're gonna acquire the land, right? And but the other money to train that, you know, to make sure that that land is there.
Well, it's to acquire the land and the rights of ways, so that the road can be built when the funding comes through to actually construct the roadway.
Okay.
Are you going to do this prior to it? If it doesn't pass, what happens? You've spent the money, right?
It's a long-term project. We all know that road needs to be aligned. Whether it's built next year or in 20 years, the town will then have the land on which to build it.
The town's going to go forward with it anyway.
That's the plan.
Whether they have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Article 28, unexpended Conservation Commission Reserve Fund. 28 and 29 are somewhat of housekeeping articles. We ended the year with both $379 in the Conservation Commission Reserve Fund, or the Conservation Commission Fund, and the Welfare Fund. We're just asking the voters to allow us to put those $1,500 and $379 respectively into those reserve funds to help reduce appropriations in the future. So as you see, there is no tax impact in 2015. Okay, Article 30, we're now into the petition warrant articles. Article 30, library, restrooms and sewer line replacement, $17,500, offset by $7,500 coming from the town sewer fund. So $10,000 would come from taxation, or 1.3 cents. Article 31, Littleton Library, librarian position. We have a petition for $34,449, or 4.5 cents on the tax rate to fund a full-time librarian position. I believe that would be for 9 months for 2015, the balance of 2015. Article 32, Library Building Capital Reserve Fund. This continues several years' appropriations in the past. Library's asking for $15,000, which would be 1.9 cents on the tax rate to go into their capital reserve fund for continued building improvements. Article 33, Community Center, Capital Reserve Fund Improvement Fund. This is the second year request from the Community Center. It would be $30,000 or 3.9 cents. And I think if you look at the detail, they're saying it will be going for continued electrical work on the main building. Article 34, Glenwood Cemetery, continued wall restoration. This is year 4, I believe, of their request of $15,000, 1.9 cents on the tax rate for continued repointing and restoration of the Glenwood Cemetery stone wall. Article 35, change to a 5-member Board of Selectmen, and tie the salary of the selectmen to the New Hampshire General Assembly payment.
George.
Can anybody answer the question, what is the current salary of the state representatives?
$100.
And what's the current salary, if any, for the selectmen?
$2,500, $500 for the chair.
Correction,
So we want-
300 for the chair. So it's 2,500 for the selectmen. No, I just got it. So it's 2,800 for the chair, and it's 2,500 for the 2 other selectmen. Yes, Dan. I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a point here that it says no tax impact, and actually there is a tax impact. This is one of the, I think, only warrant articles that actually saves the taxpayer money. So this is incorrect here, and that should be corrected to first year $2,200, but you said there was an additional $300, so that would be $2,500. The second year would save $4,900, and the third year and on would save the town $7,300. That should be noted on here.
I'm not sure the DR, correct me if I'm wrong, will the DRA allow you to show a tax savings?
I will have to ask
We'll
them.
find out, because usually you have to show it the other way when there's a tax impact.
Well, the thing is, it says no tax impact, and that's
Understood.
incorrect.
No added tax impact.
But I understand what you're saying, Dan,
Okay.
so we'll pursue that. I'll get to you.
There's also no tax impact for 2015, because this wouldn't take effect until 2016.
2016, right. First, I'll get to you. Brian had his hand up first. Brian. Oh, go ahead.
The only thing is, I believe the selectmen also have expenses. And the more people you have on the board, the more expenses you'll have for traveling, doing other things, and everything else on it. So that's not part of the salary out of it. They end up having to possibly do some traveling and get reimbursed for some things.
Well, I do some traveling because I'm on the Calix board, so I get reimbursed for the, for the mileage up there. But there really isn't much else. What costs me money personally is the amount of paper I'm printing off, at home when things are sent out here.
Didn't
But
know if you had more people on you, whether you're going to end up generating more
Right.
money.
perhaps that would happen, but our costs are
I have to take
relatively.
time out of work. I don't know about anybody else, but anyway.
The history here, just very quickly, the selectmen 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I don't know, it's been a long time, put this in place and the town approved it. The select board followed that about 10, 12 years ago, and they have a similar rating for their people. And the issue here, Dan, I believe, because I worked for many years on the school board without being paid, and then we asked, and it's primarily This may be a different year because we're suggesting expanding this board, but it's hard to find people for these positions, so this is more of a stipend to at least cover whatever costs you will incur in your own personal taking care of the business of the board here that you take care of at home, or trips you don't charge for, which are just trips around town. For instance, when we have road articles, I travel all those roads. Now, what does it add up to? A few dollars, but it's primarily a stipend to at least acknowledge the fact that you're putting some time and effort into these two boards. These positions do take some time, and I think that was the reason for asking for it, and the town approved it. But I certainly understand your logic here.
And to counter what you just said, we have state representatives who know what their salary is, and there's usually more than one applying for that, and all those positions are filled, and next year it'll be the same thing. So,
So political positions.
I did it for 6 years, and I got to tell you, is I had to finally not run again because I couldn't afford it anymore.
Selectman Seymour, you have a comment.
I do have a comment, and the comment is that sometimes you really do get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the people that are deciding on the laws in Concord, you see that you get what you pay for.
Right.
And I would like to comment on that, That's why we asked for 5 selectmen instead of 3 Littleton. Because you get what you pay for. She got right, she got that right.
Mr. Warden.
I think it was in either 2009 or 2010, Linda Warden started an initiative to do the same thing, but she ultimately ended up withdrawing it because, I think, Fred, if you could check with council, I think there was a supermajority requirement for participation to change it. There is a law on the books that they, as a public policy, they don't want to have your school board and your boards of selectmen changing the numbers, from year to year, and that there was a super majority of participation to do that. So I'd urge you to take a look at that. I'd spoken to Dan about that when he told me about that.
Yes, and I checked with the town offices, and they said no, it was not a supermajority.
All right, well.
I haven't checked.
All right, but Linda Warden withdrew hers because of what she found, that there was additional hurdles that were there.
So you need 67% for...
I don't want to quote what it was, but that there was a super majority over and above that, so.
I can say that, for the 3 of us and for the many people I've served with on the school board, that money was not, it did not retain us on those boards. And it certainly didn't attract us to the boards either, but it was, I guess, a way, when it was discussed, and I remember when it was discussed for the school board, it was a way to just acknowledge the time and effort you put in. But you're certainly right. The political positions in Concord only pay $100 plus mileage. So your point's well taken.
Article 36, referendum on the Bridge Street multimodal bridge replacement grant. The town has over $650,000 available to it to replace the now gone Bridge Street Bridge with a wooden multimodal structure. The intent of the new bridge is to tie the Immanusick Trail to the downtown for pedestrians, bicyclists, snowshoers, horseback riders, and off-road recreational vehicles, should the town choose that. When the Immanusick Trail is extended through the downtown, currently it ends at the Industrial Park Road, but the funds are in hand. The state is proceeding with decommissioning the next 3.5 miles of rail line through the downtown, and this would be a link with the downtown to that new recreational trail, or expanded recreational trail.
Bruce.
This article placed on here, which I felt should have been done by the selectmen. They were remiss in what they did. This happened to us in the town of Littleton once before. We ended up with a bridge down here that, in turn, we don't own the ends of it from that end. Was never any, the public didn't have an opportunity of saying whether the bridge was to be built or not. It was a boondoggle out of the thing on it. It was done by the town manager at the time out of the thing on it. It was actually being paid for. They used a piece of land that was behind the Littleton Diner that had like 4 pieces of parking space. And they used that as collateral to get the bridge. So they ended up with no funding on the bridge, but you don't own on either end of it either. So the people never had any opportunity of doing it. The actual funds are paid for out of the parking meter fund. They still owe, because they refinanced it last year, I still think they owe maybe $150,000 to $180,000 of money that comes out of there. The town has been holding meetings to try to figure out what they can do for parking. And they've actually, that town manager we had before took your money right out of your ability to have any money in your parking meter fund because it's coming out of that to pay for that bridge on it. Now, this other one, if you go down to it, it's a bridge to nowhere again, which yes, you can get grants to build it from the point of what it is, but consequently, you still got to maintain it when you get done. And we already have a walking bridge down there that was a Ken Curran bridge. And there's $25,000 of money, $25,000 of money that the selectmen have never gone out and repaired the bridge with. It came from Ken Curran's, I think it was out of his estate of it when he left the money too. And it's not being maintained. It just seems kind of foolish to be putting a whole bunch of bridges all the way down through there, especially this one here. You can almost throw a stone from one to the other.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Dan.
Are we asking, or not we, I don't want to take myself out of there, is a bridge being asked for in the River District setup, and also this is another bridge? Are we looking at 2 bridges?
No, this is the bridge at the end of Saranac Street, at Bridge Street. Right now, Saranac Street goes up to Meadow Street. Straightening that out, it would be on Bridge Street. And so then this bridge, there used to be a bridge there years ago, it was taken down. And this bridge would be a wooden walking bridge, it would not be a bridge for cars.
Right, but is in the River District, that's Project 3, aren't they asking for a bridge?
This is it.
This is it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
John.
As worded, this doesn't indicate that the initial construction would be paid for by non-taxpayer funds. Is it possible to add that factual information in here?
This is a petition warrant article.
Can't modify it.
Petition, John, it came in from the outside.
You can amend it after the open session.
No, you can't. No, you can't, Brian. You can't amend any article placed on here by a petition article.
I think you can. You can amend things, but you can't defeat the original intent of the motion. There are typographical corrections that are made all the time, and there are amendments that are made. That's part of the deliberative session aspect.
Not on those items.
It goes to the intent, I think.
Right.
Article 37 and 38. We received a petition article for, under 37, to restrict fishing at the Dells. The original petition said to see if the voters of the town of Littleton will approve passage of an article relative to fishing at the Dells. It was fairly generic and not specific enough that I felt if the intent was to restrict it to 16 and under fishing, then that ought to be stated in the warrant article. So Article 37 was drafted by staff to fulfill the intent of Article 37. So that's why they follow chronologically, and Article 38 is listed not as a petitioned article, but it is a town-sponsored article that will carry out really what the intent has been for fishing at the Dells for the past decades anyway, that it really is intended for children's recreation, stocked by fishing game, and not intended to fulfill the adult fishing needs.
Yes, Dan?
Is a fishing license required at this pond?
You're under age.
Because of age.
Okay, but if you are over, then it would be, okay. This would be, this is city-owned or town-owned pond? Well, to charge for fishing would be one way to provide money for that. In other words, the users pay for using the pond.
And if you charge them, you have to have someone there to take.
You're going to charge the kids under 12
Well,
years
for
old?
fishing, yeah, their parents are going to pay.
No, their parents don't pay. That you're asking those kids to pay.
No, I'm asking their parents to pay. The parents are responsible for their children, and they're using a public facility.
So, Dan, your recommendation is that there should be a fee for the use of this pond that we have?
Yes,
down on Dales Road?
user pay, not taxpayer.
George?
I'd like to comment as a sportsman, in the dwindling areas that it feels felt to be safe for children to fish. The Dells is a very good place for children to go fish under the age of 16. It gives them an opportunity to experience it, and then maybe as an adult, enjoy that endeavor. I support this very much so.
Thank you. Any other? Go ahead.
Article 39, we're into the last section of petition social service warrant articles. Article 39, Grafton County Senior Citizens Council, $34,000 or 4.4 cents on the tax rate. Article 40, Amanuset Community Health Services, $15,000 or 1.9 cents on the tax rate. Article 41, Boys and Girls Club, $10,000, 1.3 cents on the tax rate. Article 42, Birch House, $3,080 or 0.4 cents on the tax rate. Article 43, North Country Home Health and Hospice, $21,500, 2.8 cents on the tax rate. Article 44, North Country Transit, $4,000, 0.5 cents on the tax rate. Article 45, Northern Human Services, $9,696, or 1.3 cents on the tax rate. Article 46, Tri-County Community Action Program, $11,000, or 1.4 cents on the tax rate. Caleb Caregivers, Inc., $2,000, or 0.3 cents on the tax rate. And the Center for New Beginnings, Article 48, the last one, of $1,000, 0.1 cent on the tax rate. We did have a comment from DRA on both Articles 46 and 47. The way they're worded, it's somewhat questionable whether it's a real appropriation or not. If you go to the detail on those, one says is requesting and the other says petition the support of in the amount of $2,000. I just wouldn't want those to be turned down by DRA if they are voted in favor. So if anyone is speaking to those at deliberative session, it may be worthwhile to make a clarification that the intent of those is to raise and appropriate those sums as we do in all the other articles.
Dan.
This is one of those occasions you get to use a word that you don't normally use. I was chagrined to learn that people who work for the town or are paid by the taxpayers went out and solicited these, if you want to call them charity groups, to come in and take money from the town. I don't think that's appropriate at all.
What do you mean by?
I think that's an incorrect assessment.
Well, I heard.
What we do as staff is work with a number of residents, business and otherwise, to assure that they can comply with town regulations. And this was just an outreach attempt to let them know of the deadline should they wish to submit one. It was not a solicitation. It was a reminder of our schedule of deadlines.
But this wasn't coming out of your pocket or anybody's, anybody who was doing this soliciting, it wasn't coming out of their pocket. They were saying, how about coming in here and taking some more money from the taxpayers? And that is not appropriate.
Do just to let you know what the process is.
Still not appropriate.
That's your opinion.
Yes, that's my opinion.
Are there any other
Yeah, I just
questions?
want to say, I don't think by doing that, they're not taking our money, because we are approving that. If we approve it, then we're okay with giving them the money. So I don't consider that taking, if we've approved it.
They're taking the money. Sorry.
Karen?
I have just a couple corrections. When you read the tax impact on North Country Transit, Article 44, it's actually a half a cent per thousand, not 5 cents. And then there was a couple other ones. Northern Human Services is .013 per thousand. Tri-County CAP is .014 per thousand. Caleb Caregivers is .003 per thousand. And New Beginnings is .001 per thousand.
That'll be corrected on the...
These are on here corrected. But what was
just
read...
making sure I read them correctly. The way they're written is correct.
Well, didn't you say North County Transit was half a cent?
Is .005.
Oh, okay.
Which is half a cent.
Are there any other questions here? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any other discussion among the selectmen? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by roll call vote.
Mike Gillen, aye.
Margie Seymour, aye.
Milt Brotz, aye. Thank you all for coming tonight. Bruce, you had a question.